What up, Pod Squad? Back with another edition of Prop It Like It's Hot. I know it's been a couple weeks here, but excited to get back into it. Not how we wanted to start. We started 1-2 here a couple weeks ago, so we're looking to get back on track. We were 2 yards away from Kareem Hunt's receiving yards to turn that into a 2-in-1 day, but hey, such is life. On to the next one. I've got the 3 different ones, and then I'll get a bonus fourth one here for you. Starting off with a pretty simple one. Elite receiver versus terrible cornerbacks. I'm going to take the A.J. Brown over 75.5 receiving yards. He's going to line up against 3 Arizona cornerbacks who are just playing absolutely abysmal here through the first 4 weeks. Looking at Pro Football Focus's grades for cornerbacks, they rank out as 3 of the worst in the NFL. Out of the 105 that have meet like the snap count minimum, 2 of them rank respectively 101st and 102nd out of 105. And the best one is Byron Murphy, who's ranked 49th out of 105. So A.J. Brown moves all around, so he's going to face 3 abysmal cornerbacks here. So give me the over 75.5 for A.J. Brown receiving yards. Next, I'm going to move my focus to the Bills and the Steelers game. I know most people think, hey, let's go with Stephon Diggs. So I'm going to in one way, but the line hasn't dropped yet. They haven't put out the receptions total yet, just the receiving yards. So his is at like 77.5, which feels about right. So I didn't jump all over that just yet. But when his receptions come out, if I see it at like 6.5, meaning 7 or more catches gets him a win, I'm definitely going to jump all over that. My guess is it's going to open at 7.5, and that feels about right, about 8 catches. But if it somehow opens at 6.5, definitely jump all over that. But where my bet is actually going to go for now is actually on Gabe Davis, the over 44.5 receiving yards. Big reason why. Their big focus for the Steelers is going to say, hey, we're not going to let Stephon Diggs beat us. So what is that going to do? Take some focus off of Gabe Davis. The reason I'm making this bet right now, though, is because of 2 players on his own team. One, Isaiah McKenzie, was in concussion protocol here this last week. He just returned to practice today, but he was still wearing a non-contact jersey. So with concussions being under such a microscope in the NFL right now, I would not be surprised if they held him out this week. In addition, Dawson Knox is in the same boat. He had some lingering injuries, and he still hasn't practiced. Or if anything, he's done a limited practice. So I would not be surprised to see him be likely out as well. So right now, give me the Gabe Davis at 44.5 receiving yards, because as soon as those 2 are rolled out, either this is going to be taken off the board completely, or that 44.5 number for Gabe Davis is going to go up. And finally, let's give some tight ends some love this week. I'm going with the Will Dissly over 17.5 receiving yards for Seattle. For whatever reason, him and Geno Smith seems to have a connection, especially when they get in close. Now, don't get me wrong, it looks like a brutal matchup with the New Orleans Saints, but for me, that's more so the cornerbacks that are going to take lockdown Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So what that's going to do for me is funnel everything to the middle. They don't really need an extra inline blocker. Will Dissly's going to run enough routes and have enough route participation to get a couple of receptions here, probably anywhere between 2 to 4 catches, and really all we're looking for is 2. His average depth of target right now is 4.6 yards, and his yards after catch on average is 5.1 yards. So for those slow math people, that's 9.7 yards. So all we're really looking for, if he hits his 2 averages in those, is 2 catches. Will get us right around 18 yards and go over the 17.5. So those are my 3 best bets. I'm going to go with A.J. Brown over 75.5 receiving yards, Gabe Davis over 44.5 receiving yards, and Will Dissly over 17.5 receiving yards. As a bonus, if you want to jump back in on that Bills and Steelers game in an alternate route, Devin Singletary, you heard me talk him up on the pod. I think he's in line for a big game too. My focus, I jumped in on a number that I got really early. It was 48.5 rushing yards, and again, I took the over. That's up to about like 52 or 53 now, so I don't know that I'd be itching to get in on that. But if you want, I would suggest jumping in on his rushing plus receiving yards, which is sitting at like 74.5. I talked about he's been more involved in the receiving game lately, so he get 2-3 catches. So even if you want to isolate that, I think his over receiving yards was about 17 yards, 17.5 yards, something like that. So if you want to isolate that, go for it. I think he'll certainly get there. But if you want to say, hey, maybe this becomes a blowout and they run the ball a little bit more and kind of cover yourself and take rushing and receiving, that number is going to be at 74.5, and I don't mind that. Don't mind that either. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Let's cash some tickets on Sunday.